No, I'm not going down that path right now. We'll try this. Kieran in the UK, thanks for waiting.
No problem at all. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Very well. Happy Mother's Day to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so my thesis is basically that we as a community have been completely blindsided by Islam. That we've been so focused on this one.
Hey, Kieran.
Sorry, go on.
I'm just wondering, just for clarity, which community? The UK community, the US community, the atheist community, what? Or everybody?
The atheist community, the skeptic community. That we've been we've been so focused on this one religion, Christianity, which, because that is the biggest challenge in our local environment, that's what we've been embedded in all our lives. But ultimately, the biggest problem religion in the world today is Islam. Now, I don't know what it's like over there, but...
Well, this is simple. So this is simple. I might agree with you that worldwide, the biggest religious threat to individual liberty and freedom is Islam. Wow, what was that noise?
Right.
I might agree with you that that's the case. That doesn't mean it's the biggest threat in the United States. It doesn't mean it's the biggest threat in Texas. It doesn't mean it's the biggest threat in Austin or my neighborhood. It also doesn't mean that my efforts in another area won't affect that. For example, if what we're actually opposed to is violations of the separation of religion and government, and we're addressing the single religion in the United States that is the biggest imposition and opposition to that status.
The biggest imposition on that status by far.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
Right.
Then by protecting that, we basically inoculate ourselves against the potential harm and threat of a religion, of some other religion coming in and taking over the government.
I'm not sure if that's true.
How is it not true that if in opposing Christian intrusions on liberties here, we build up a system that guarantees that religions can't intrude, then Islam is not going to be able to come over and take over the government?
Because Islam, unlike Christianity, is protected by a cloak of political correctness. If you criticize Islam,
it doesn't. No, it isn't.
Racist,
it doesn't. Wait, even if it was, if it was, what difference does that make? They don't. If we have laws that prevent, that are strong against religious intrusions in government, then they apply to all religions.
I agree, and that's how it should be done. But let me give you the situation over here in England at the moment. We're in a situation where we have magazines that can say whatever they like about Christianity. They can mock Jesus, they can have cartoons saying pretty much whatever they like. But if you say something against Islam or Muhammad, their prophet, then you can literally get the police knocking on your door.
Yes.
In England, the mother of...
Do you know why?
Do
you know why?
Because of hate speech.
Because the UK has awful free speech laws that offer regulation based on offense.
Yes, but that is selective against which religion it is, because that isn't enforced against.
So
you can
work toward making it not selective. So what we're talking about here is having laws that broadly prevent religious intrusion into government, and it doesn't matter what kind of religion it is. And so
it shouldn't do. You're right.
And so that's what you guys need to work for over there.
Yeah. So what we have is a fundamental difference in the existing laws with regard to what people can say. Now, I get what you're saying, that a tenor of political correctness, or I'm not even necessarily sure that's the right word. If
it is the right word.
Okay. If the public view has been twisted such that we can't criticize X, is offering an unfair advantage to a particular religion that wants to intrude on a government, then that is definitely something that needs to be addressed. However, if it seems to be that it is this in conjunction with some rather sloppy laws, the very idea that we would have a law based on offense, you offended someone.
Yeah. That's absurd.
This is my. I talk with my friends in the UK all the time about this. There's fundamental disagreements about what should be permissible with free speech, and I won't pretend that the U.S. has managed to absolutely perfectly nail it. But I will defend every day that the the U.S.'s version of free speech is superior to the UK's.
Agreed. We don't have
that's
the same kind of
different. That's
protection that you
different.
guys have.
That's different, though, from what the general tone in society is about what is appropriate or inappropriate. And there's massive disagreement on all those things. What I think is.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I just think that you guys over in America really need to see what's happening in Europe as an example, and you should really be careful, because once the Muslim population gets beyond a certain percentage, they start to they start to organize politically and impose Sharia law, whether you like
no,
they
not
can't
going to
do
happen
that here.
here.
They can't do that here.
It's your laws that are the problem.
Okay, well
it's
then,
not the population
America,
of Muslims.
And if that started to happen, if that started to happen, then you stand up in opposition to that.
That's right.
America will be left as a citadel by itself while the rest of the Western world becomes an Islamic Sharia state.
So okay, so are you calling us to have us come fix what's wrong in the UK?
No, of course not. But I do think that you should see us as a warning, and you should take it seriously, because
I do.
But the thing is, I don't think you understand that the situation here is fundamentally different because of the way our laws are written.
No, it's because of the population of Muslims.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's absolutely not related to the population of Muslims.
You don't think these European countries had all these different legislations protecting free speech? And
No.
Not the way the U.S. does.
Yeah.
No, they
the
don't. The Europe's views on free speech are a fundamental problem. You know, you can't be a Holocaust denier and speak in Germany.
Yeah, I do know that, but
Okay.
I'm talking about the Islamic.
I could be a Holocaust denier here in the United States. I would be derided for being a ridiculous, ill-informed buffoon, but I could do it.
It happens so slowly. You guys don't understand. It's piece by piece. It's this creeping theocracy. The bigger the population,
we don't have creeping theocracy here. Okay, the theocrats here are actually in our government, and they're not Islam or Muslims. They're Christian dominionists.
Sorry?
Okay, look, a big problem is that people aren't allowed to say what they think is true here. When people talk about extremists, radical Islam, what they're really talking about is just orthodox, conservative Islam. Because, there's nothing extreme in what ISIS are doing in terms of what is in the Quran or the Hadith. Everything that the Islamic State do is pure sunnah. They back up everything they do with scriptural text from Islam.
I find it bizarre that you don't think I'm aware of what you're saying.
Yeah.
If you don't think that...
I just said I find it bizarre that you think I don't know what you're telling me.
Do you not think this can happen to America like it's happened to all of these European countries?
No, not in the same way, not along those lines. But what I said was, I find it bizarre that you think I'm not aware of the information you're relaying to me.
I am so relieved that you do agree with me, because over here, it's almost like no one's allowed to talk about this.
Okay, that's not true. That's just not true. You are exaggerating the thing. Are you saying Pat Condell can't talk about it? I disagree with him on all kinds of things, but he certainly seems to be able to talk about it. Are you saying that you're not allowed to talk about it? Aren't you in the UK?
I'm saying any public politicians, any public speakers, if they say anything against Islam, that's it. Their career is over. That's their entire lives.
Yeah, that means you need to change your culture.
It's Western culture we need to change.
It's not Western culture. That doesn't exist here.
You don't think political correctness is bigger against Islam?
I think. Let me demonstrate how different the two governments are between our two nations. You say that anybody, a political figure in the UK, who said something negative about Islam, their career would be over. In the United States, any politician that says something negative about Islam, their career is off to a roaring start.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
No, I'm saying that. I'm saying that is the fundamental difference. I'm saying that we have in the United States a parade of people who think that it's okay to put up Islam as the scariest. This is the boogeyman. Islam is the boogeyman that Christian dominionists try to use in the United States to bolster their political positions. And in your place it's the opposite.
Hold on. Trump tried to ban about 6 failed states from extremist Muslim countries, and all shit broke loose.
Yes, and it should have.
As it should have.
It was a violation of the Constitution. You do not get to just regulate based on religion. We have freedom of religion here.
Yeah, for American citizens, not for the rest of the planet.
No, you cannot ban people based on their religion.
Who does the Constitution apply to? Who does the Constitution apply to? American citizens.
Yes. Is the president? It also limits the powers of the president and the Congress, etc. However, hang on. Are you suggesting that the United States should prevent Muslims from entering the nation?
I think that would be an incredibly prudent move on your part. Yes.
I think that you are a reactionary buffoon because there are plenty of Muslims that don't represent a threat in the way you have become. Okay, so then that can't be the criteria that we use to determine who we're going to give asylum to.
I'm not talking about Muslims.
I just asked you, and you said it would be very prudent for us to stop Muslims from entering the country.
Yes, it would be.
Why?
Because of the ideology that they hold.
Okay, but not all Muslims have the same ideology, first of all.
Of course.
Okay, so if not all Muslims have the same ideology, why would it be prudent for us to stop all Muslims from entering the country?
Because within Islam, politics and religion are not different. They're combined within the same thing.
I understand that that's the case in nation states where the Islamic regimes are the states.
It's not nation. It's not nation states. It's the Quran, it's the Hadith, it's an entire way of life.
Do you understand that not every Muslim gives a rat's ass what a particular interpretation of the Quran? Do you not understand that there are Muslims living all over Dearborn that are running around getting tattoos and partying and not caring too much about their religion? In the same way that we have liberal and moderate, in the same way that we have liberal, moderate, and fundamentalist Christians, this exists within Islam as well.
Yes. Do you realize that I've got lots of Muslim friends who drink alcohol and eat pork and do all these other things?
Yep.
They call themselves Muslims, but they are not Muslims.
Okay, but if they call themselves Muslim and you stop them from coming into the country because they're Muslims, now you have eliminated their influence on Muslim culture.
Because there's no way of telling the ones that just want to be peaceful, normal guys and the ones that want to behead you.
Sure. How do I tell the difference between visitors of the UK who are sensible and who are not? Should we stop UK visitors?
Do you realize the Muslims are allowed to lie to non-Muslims?
Yes.
Do you realize that anyone is allowed to lie?
Yeah.
I know that Christians aren't supposed to lie.
No. So wow.
Yeah, and yet
is there anything you won't believe?
There are all kinds of justifications of Christians lying to non-believers or people of other faiths.
I know that, but they are advised not to lie. Muslims
are
advised to lie.
So what?
No, I'm talking about doctrine.
Okay, can you tell the difference between a Muslim who's going to lie and a Muslim who's not going to lie? A Muslim who's going to actually support a theocratic view that's going to marginalize you and one who's not. And if your solution is just to allow none of them into the country, how does that help anything?
Because it stops them from committing terrorism.
So since I can't tell whether or not you're going to say something sensible or not, I should just hang up on you now. Because I don't know. I don't care. This is about we're way over time on the show, you see, and I need to figure out if I should stop the call now so that everybody can go to dinner. And so I have to make a judgment about whether or not it's in my best interest to continue listening to you to see if you're going to say something sensible. And if I can't tell, wouldn't it be most prudent of me just to hang up?
Well, let me try and say something sensible.
Why don't you answer that question? This is about what you can identify.
Then yes.
Okay. Is it possible? Is it possible that there are violent dominionist Christians who would like to immigrate as well?
How many?
No. Is it possible?
How many jihadists are Christians?
Is it possible that there? Are you not aware of the dominionist Christian movement that wants a theocracy?
I don't think he's aware of it.
That we've recently experienced.
Okay.
99% of it is Islamic.
I don't give a shit. I'm asking. Look. Here are two Christians. Tell me which one is a dominionist bent on a theocratic rule of the United States. Can you tell the difference?
Christians.
Can you tell the
immigrants
fucking difference?
No.
Okay, so now we have 2 Christians that you can't tell the difference between, and 2 Muslims that you can't tell the difference between. And you're saying it's prudent to not allow either Muslim in, or would you also say it's not prudent to allow either Christian in?
No, I would say look at the track record of Christian immigrants compared to Muslim immigrants.
Yeah, I have looked at the track record of Christian immigrants. Christians are trying to make the laws of the government of the United States conform to their religious views. They vote along those lines. They are marginalizing the rights of LGBT communities and more. Should we not oppose that?
On subways? Are they beheading soldiers in the street?
You know what?
This is the fallacy of relative privation, where you seem to only care about what you view as the biggest problem. And I'm trying to point out there are other problems as well. And solving the problems that you can solve will insulate you to some extent against the other problems.
And see, this is one of the things. Stop. We started this segment of the show with a discussion about the discriminatory legislation that the Texas legislature has put forward here. And it's based on Christianity, a Christian interpretation of what the laws should look like. The effect of those laws will be transgender kids, gay kids will kill themselves, because we know that's what happens when they're subjected to reparative therapy, or they are completely excluded from public life, or they're outed to their parents. When they have no safe place, they kill themselves. They put forth laws that restrict the ability of women to even access basic medical care. And the net effect of that is the maternal mortality rate in this country looks like, or actually in this state, looks like that of a third world country. Because women are not being able to access basic health care, including prenatal care, reproductive health services. There's a whole range of stuff. People die because of the laws these people pass, and they pass these laws based on Christianity. It's not based on Islam. They are trying to enact a theocracy here. This is what we're up against, and that's why we're saying it's not about political correctness, that we don't lose our shit over Islam all the time. Yeah, I'm aware of what's going on in Europe and ISIS, and you guys need to work on your laws. But we don't have that same problem here. We have another set of problems, and it's focused on Christian dominionism.
I wish the problems you guys had. Well, that's all I can say.
Well, fix your shit and you'll have those problems. I can guarantee you, you'll end up with those problems. Because while C of E is this largely, warm, fuzzy, I don't give a damn about religion, once you get rid of your Muslim problem and fix your laws regarding free speech, I'm pretty sure the Dominionists will be parading your way just like they've done in Australia.
Yeah.
It's the issue here is you have a very, let me see if I can make this easy. You have in your nation a problem that is a huge concern for others, and I see that and I agree with it. I agree that there is a problem there and that you need to do work. But calling us to tell us, hey, you guys should watch out, we've got this problem over here, we're aware of that, but we got problems of our own. Yeah. And so it's about triage. It is about what you can do and what is most important and significant at that time. The problems in the UK with regard to pick your poison, it doesn't even have to be, Islamic stuff, it could be UKIP or whatever else, that whatever problems are going on there, I have my own batch of problems here. And if my work in changing people's minds and opposing legislation that is of a religious nature succeeds, and I'm not alone. I'm just talking in turn. Matt's doing it all by himself. I'm saying that if that succeeds, it will serve as an insulative barrier against the kind of problems that you're having. Is it a foolproof thing? Is it? No. Is there a guarantee? No. But what I'm going to try and do is work on the side of freedom and liberty and not pretend that because I can't tell the difference of who the bad guy is in this circle versus the good guy in this circle, that it's good to regard all of them. Instead, first of all, one of the radicalized ISIS people in the United States, they're not immigrants. A good chunk of them were born here. Okay?
Same here.
So if we're going to work on changing people's minds, rather than saying, I of you is evil and which one of you is not, so I'm not going to have anything to do with you, any of you. Why not build communities that get people to acknowledge what the laws should be, how we best protect our citizens, how we best encourage freedom, and fundamentally reform Islam by changing the world around it in the way that we have dramatically, but not wholly, reformed Christianity by changing the world around it.
Okay, you say that we should try and reform Islam. I would argue that we are already experiencing an age of reformation in the Islamic world.
Me too.
Boko Haram, the Islamic State, Al-Shabaab, Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, the other, Al-whatever. These are all reformation movements aimed at bringing back the faith to its pure and original form.
Yes.
They are sadly very accurate in their assessment of Islam and Muhammad. But that is what reformation is. Reformation
they are accurate.
The original source.
They are accurate in the versions. It's basically, it's cherry picking. It's the thing the Dominionists do. It's the same thing the God hates fags people do. They're going to cherry pick the things, and they are on firm biblical footing. They are on firm Quranic footing.
It's not even cherry picking. It's just
It is cherry picking. Within the Quran, there are two dramatically different versions of Muhammad and what he's arguing for. Muhammad before and after Medina. And whichever one you focus on determines what your ideology is going to be.
Yes, but because of abrogation, the latter verses within Medina are prioritized. So the Meccan verses are almost irrelevant. All those peaceful things.
They're not irrelevant. They're not irrelevant across the board. Yes, it's a troubling. Oh my God. Yes, it's a troubling situation. The fact that we haven't solved the problem entirely.
There is no solution. There is no solution.
Well, then why are you talking to me? You're completely wasting my time. We run 12 minutes over, and you are so negative-minded you think there is no solution. I can give you a number of solutions. Reform towards the Mecca verses. Then you go to work to demonstrate that there's no good reason to believe in a God or in these other things. And then you work to establish interactions between the nation states that are fundamentally based on Islam and other free nations. And you build up and you bombard them and you give them free internet. You relieve the poor, and you show that there's a better way of life. This is an overwhelming impetus for change, recognizing that there is a better way of life, that your religion that you bought into that makes you wear a sack so that nobody can see anything but your eyes, so that you can't, without the company of men, you can't drive a car. This sort of rebellion is happening. The fact that there are violent regimes that are focused on one aspect of Islam, which is horrific, is a real problem. The fact that we haven't solved all the problems doesn't mean there is no solution. And I have absolutely no time and no interest in wasting time with someone who is relegated to the position that there is no solution. And if all you did was to call up and bitch that there's no solution, and that this is terrible, the sky is falling, it's going to keep falling until you recognize that you shouldn't give up, that you should try to change the world, that humanism, skepticism, education, these are the cornerstones of how we build a better society. And just because it doesn't happen overnight for the spoiled brats who want everything now and everything fixed and everything free, you got to actually do some work. Throw your hands in the air. You're not a friend of me, and I don't need to hear from you on the show. On that note, we'll be going to Star of India restaurant there at the thing. I don't know if you had anything to add to my...
No, it's just like, it reminds me of the people who say, the regressive liberals are afraid to say radical Islamic terrorists because that's a magic incantation that...
I don't know if I'm a regressive liberal or not. It just depends on who you talk to, but I'm happy to talk about radical Islamic terrorists because it's a real thing.
Yeah.
Causing all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't solutions to the problems. And if you've got your mindset that there's no solution and you're willing to throw out the baby with the bathwater, we'll throw you out and I'll move on to keep doing what I'm doing. By the way, I mentioned the fallacy of relative privation, which not everybody's aware of, but it comes up over and over and over and over again. And it's this idea that you can only focus on the one biggest problem. Why are you focused on, Kieran athletes are dying of cancer? Well, maybe because there are people also working on that, but we have a cure for athlete's foot now. Oh, well, why are you focused on, this little simple piece of legislation here instead of whether or not, climate change? Well, I think climate change is a really big issue. in fact be focused on. I think we're making a lot of mistakes there. But to say that we should only focus on that to the exclusion of other problems is a mistake. This idea of triage, of figuring out, first of all, what can I do? That you've all heard, think globally, act locally. When it comes to morality, one of the tenets that I ascribe to is, what would the world be like if everybody took the action that I'm considering taking? Now, of course, there's exceptions to that. If I'm getting ready to eat a sandwich and everybody in the world ate a sandwich all at the same time, that's a problem. But in the sense of trying to figure out decision-making issues, if everybody in the world decided that there's no solution and we should give up, I know that that world is worse.
Yep.
Because that world ceases to exist.